All right, folks, Gene Gallen here with the Chatham Journal. I got Ashibo Rojas from the Chatham News and Record. We also have a special guest. Not going to tell you who that is yet, but here's our agenda for today's Chatham NC Sports Roundup. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to introduce our special guest. We're going to talk, of course, of basketball. Weather screwed up a whole bunch of schedules. Then, if you're not aware, the second draft of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association proposed conferences came out. She was going to go into that. We'll get into everybody's favorite discussion topic, the basketball power rankings, because nobody can agree on anything except Shibo and I. And then we'll talk about the stories that come out in today's paper. Shibo's Athlete of the Week, although we may move that around, and then we'll talk about swimming and indoor track. And again, we're going to kick off with wrestling. And the reason we're going to kick off with wrestling is, let me get rid of the graphic and open this up. And I don't have my mouse with me, so I'm having to work with this darn pad, which I personally hate. There we go. Oh, my goodness. All right. Our special guest today is Coach Armstrong, wrestling coach over at Seaforth High School. So I am going to let Ashibo kick this off. Let me get out of here because Ashibo's the smart one.
Yeah, Coach, thank you for joining us this afternoon and taking the time to speak with us about your team. Yeah, I mean, like I said, first question I want to ask you is just how special this team is this year, right? 15-2 so far in duels. You guys are on your way to your fourth straight conference championship after you guys go against Bartley NC, like you said, tomorrow night. And then also pretty good feelings about Saturday at the individual conference tournament as well, I'm sure, for you guys. So with everybody returning from last season, right, state championship run and the individual state championship, and then runner-ups for duels, I mean, how has this team pretty much grown as wrestlers, improved from last season, and kind of been successful for a second straight year like they've been?
Well, a lot of our success comes in the hands of the coaches. Pete Rogers is our technicianist, and Pete gets in, dials them in, and then we got Coach Overcash, we had Coach Dodd and Coach Tracy. That's for starters. The boys they're one close community, so we really build the family piece off of that, and then them being smart in the classroom puts them smart on the mat. And and out of last year, we lost one, but we lost two kids from last year's state championship team. So, Bass didn't come back out, and then Josh went to NC State. So, a lot of it is, good. We had a decent off season this year. We got them back in the room early. They started working out, and then I think it took us about 3 weeks before we got into tune to where we were the same time last year. So, it didn't help football extended season this year, so we was a little behind. And we went after good competition so far this year. We wrestled the number one team in 1A, the first weekend, and then we turned around back in December 14th. We wrestled the number one team in 3A. So we're always going after the best competition. This year we did something different, and we took half the team down to Florida, wrestled the Holiday Knockout Christmas tournament down there. All our kids won matches. We had Ethan Kubal. He placed fourth, in a very, very contested 215 weight class. And then, and we have the girls, we had Kira Rosenmark, she placed fourth down there. So, we're constantly moving forward, with the competition that we're putting our boys and our girls in front of.
Yeah, that was kind of my second question, was talking about that competition you guys went up against. Like you said, you already Charter down in 1A, Union Pines in 3A, then the Florida tournament. I mean, what did you learn, and what did you and the boys learn about this team, and kind of the things you guys wanted to improve on from those competitive tournaments and duels you guys went up in?
Yeah, Pete uses the phrase, we have to find a way to win. We got to fight off our backs and stuff like that. When we execute, we got to follow through the execution. We got to get from point A to point B without stopping. In every tournament we wrestled out. When we won the Red Wolf, we came back in the room and we improved on what our mistakes were. When the Jim King took second, we lost to a very, very talented Huff team. They're the 4A projected state champs. Every match, every tournament, Coach Rogers, we watch, we take notes, and then we go back in the room and we get after it. So, And that's where most of our success comes from. And our boys are resilient. They, everything that we throw at them, they accept the challenge and they just get better.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you have a lot of guys having some great individual seasons. And you mentioned Ethan Kubal. I'm going to ask about him. And just preface this, he is our athlete of the week for you guys that follow Athlete of the Week at the Chatham Losing Record. And he gets it for this week for his performance at the Dash Classic, finished first in 2:15, and has now placed in all 5 of Seaforth's individual tournaments and first place in 4 of them. So, like I said, really special season for him. What do you think about the season he's having, and what has made him so successful this year?
With Ethan, it was he continuously get better every match. It's fun to watch. He was a huge addition to our program last year, and watching him grow last year into what he's turned into this year. He's putting everything together. He's in the weight room. His conditioning is good. His nutrition's good. His practice partners are good. Not only is he making his practice partners better, his practice partners are making him better. And he's really bought into the whole, hey, he's good enough to win a state title, and we know, deep down inside that he'll come out on top this year. I mean, you think about it, last year he lost a sudden victory overtime in the quarters to keep him from the semis, and then to battle back the way he battled back. I think he put it in his mind that he is good. Now he knows he's good. Now he just got to go out there and execute it and show his capabilities. I mean, because he's wrestled some really, really good kids this year. And he's beat some really, really good kids this year, just like in the finals with the Green Hope kid at the Dash, And he's a captain. He's a good role model. And he really, really pushes his teammates to get everything out of them.
Yeah. And he has plenty of other really good teammates, like you said, Jordan, Gabe, your son Lane, Alex Henchman, Judge Lloyd, Harrison Compton. I mean, all these guys pretty much have had less than 10 losses this year, pretty good records themselves. So how do you kind of get that same consistency out of all these guys? Because, I mean, they were kind of doing some of the things last year, right? And then coming back and doing it this year.
Well, it all starts with, the practice partners. When we started this program, I mean 90% of our lineups never wrestled before their freshman year. And then once we got them to understand how to be good practice partners, not get in there, hurt each other, get in a fight, whatever. But, it comes down to, you look at Jordan, Gabe, and Lane, 3 of our top kids in the state, they practice together every day. And then you go Chance and Ben Johnson and Caden Brewer, they're practice partners. And then you go Carter Kearney, Alex Hinchman, Judge Lloyd, practice partners. You got Compton, Kubal, and then you got Palmer Mode. So, the whole program. Then, everybody's forgetting about Luke Ayers at 106, first year wrestling last year, and Luke's placing the tournaments this year, and that has a lot to do with Jordan and Gabe giving him the looks in practice, Lane wrestling with him, Chance wrestling with Ben. So it's, the way our practices are designed, it's designed to, some of our guys are going to get beat up pretty good in that practice room, but when they go and hit that mat, they've seen the best kids in the state. And we're fortunate that, we have probably 9 of the best kids in 2A right now. Then, you guys will see on Saturday, we got a 26 that, he's finally down in weight, and he's going to be a sleeper for us because nobody has really watched him wrestle yet. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the secret recipe. I also want to ask. Go ahead, Ashiba. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I think that we had a little bit of a disconnection there, but I think we're back. But yeah, I also wanted to ask about the girls because you got some girls that joined Kira this year to wrestle. So what's it been like having a lot more girls on the team this year, and talk about what they've done this season and how it's been kind of getting them up to speed and acclimated to the wrestling.
Well, first off, I mean, we're glad to have Kira back. We get her for 3 days a week, and and she's making strides. She's looked so good this year. And then she practiced with the boys, but now, then to come out and see that we had 5 other girls join her, it was like, oh, wow. Now we got a head girls coach. So Coach Dodd's been doing a great job with them. with Caroline Cook, she's good. You got Sarah Tanner. Problem with Sarah is that she's in a very, very tough weight classes, whether she goes 20 or 26. Them girls are at the light weights, they've been training for a while. So, but just to watch them evolve and watch Coach Tracy and Coach Dodd working with them. When I get there, we're working with them and they're learning. I don't think any of them lost a conference match yet. They're going to wrestle the conference tournament on Saturday. Kira will not be at the conference tournament because we're sending her down to the Carolina Showcase in Charlotte. So, we just got to put her in front of, stronger competition. Kira's got to look at what West wrestling looks like compared to the East side of it. But as far as the girls team, we had Elise Warner coming in at 145. Liliana Meisner, she surprised us. She's placing in tournaments now. She's really picking up. And the one thing that we find with our girls program, they're coachable. We can show 2 or 3 moves and then, we go out on the mat and they're hitting them. So, it's been fun to watch the girls program grow at Seaforth.
Yeah. And also more on Kira. Like you said, she's having to go and compete more competitive tournaments and things like that. Just talk about, you've been around her, for her time here at Seaforth. Talk about, that growth from when she first got to you guys with the wrestling program. I'm sure she already had experience, but up to now and to what she's become, she's now one of the best girls wrestlers in the state.
Yeah, when we got Kira as a freshman, her mom and dad did a very good job of having her ready. When she walked in that room, she was beating boys, and she was a big contributor to our conference title the first year. The second year, I'm sorry, because she should have been a freshman. And then watching her at the state finals, lost a very close match that she was winning. Then last year, she dealt with a knee injury, which kind of prevented her from some of the stuff that she's capable of doing on the mat, took third at states, and watching her transform from not wanting to wrestle to being bought in, and chasing competition. And that's one thing that's unique with Kira. She's not scared to wrestle anybody. She'll be like, "Hey, coach, I need to go here. I need to wrestle this one. I need to wrestle this one." I said, "Well, where can we find them?" We start doing the research and then we send her to the tournament. Kudos to her mom and dad, Dave and Kelly. They make sure that she gets there. Kudos Coach Dodd. He's there in the corner whenever Coach Rogers and I can't be there. But we have high expectations for seeing her on the top of the podium at 165. And if you look at it, she's already beat the top 4 girls in the state in that weight class, so we've already seen them. It wasn't close. So she's dominated her weight class so far this year.
I want to ask a question about Kira because actually I talked to her mom Kelly during the volleyball season, and she had said at that time she was going to opt out of wrestling, and then I saw that she was back in it, and then I dropped a text to Kelly, and she said, well, she decided to come back in. Are you able to share information as to how that went from her not wanting to wrestle to her coming back to wrestling?
Yeah, I think a lot of the credit goes to some of the girls in the program. They stayed on her. When Kira called and she said, "Hey, coach, I don't think I'm coming out this year." I said, "Well, let's table it. We're still talking middle of October. They just got beat in the state finals." And then she was working at Food Line. And, we'd stop in and just keep, planting the seed in her head. Hey, you always got a spot on the team, And I think what it came down to, she missed it. After the first dual match, she was there. Because I think after the first duel, she called and she said, "Hey, coach, can I come back?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So there's always be a spot on the team for you. So I think what it came down to, and it's a funny story. I didn't know this at the time, but one of our former wrestlers was watching the national rankings, and you had Samaya out of Jack Britt, and then you had Faith Bain out of New Bern. And they did a lot of off-season, and they were nationally ranked. And this wrestler, I won't give his name, but you guys can probably figure it out, sent Kira a 1.5-page text on why she should be wrestling. If you're going to go out in this sport, go out on the top, and she wasn't at the top yet. So something resonated with that conversation she had with the wrestler. And I credit him a lot for the reason why she's back. Cause he said some key things to her that triggered something in her. And he's right. She needs to go. If she's not going to wrestle anymore, she needs to go out on top. So, and this is going to be her year to go out, win it all, and then we'll have her back again for a senior year. So.
All right, I got another question. Ashibo and I, when we talk to a lot of coaches, they feel that kids that play in dual sports or multiple sports do better in each one of those sports and actually do better in school. Are you finding that Kira, having played in volleyball and going as far as she did, and actually I think there was at one time in that state championship, Ashibo was going to you were going to put her down for player of the game. If I'm not mistaken, Ashibo. So have you seen her playing volleyball, helping her out with the wrestling side?
Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, the weight training, all the training that she does, her hips are good, her arm strength. I mean, all that. I mean, her conditioning's still a little down. They don't do a whole lot of conditioning in volleyball, but watching her with the skill set that she carries with volleyball and able to bring it over to wrestling, is a big key for her success.
All right, I got another question. You had mentioned to Ashibo that you were going to send her down to Charlotte so she could see a difference between East versus West Side wrestling. What is the difference between East and West Side wrestling?
Most of the top-ranked girls are coming out of the West. It's more of the mountain schools. The stuff we don't really get to see because, we don't – I mean, as a dual team, we don't wrestle too far. I think the furthest west we wrestle is Greensboro. So, you got your Charlottes, you got your Gastonias, your Avery, your Robbinsvilles, that's what happened last year with Kira. We never seen the girl. We never got to see tape on her. We didn't know what she was good at, what she's bad at. So there was no game plan that we could put in place for Kira. So, by now sending her out west, there's always a different style. I'm an Ohio kid. You got your river wrestlers, you got your northeast, you got your northern wrestlers, and your river wrestlers more. They're going to brawl you, and your northern wrestlers are going to be more technique. So, what Coach Rogers does a great job is we get the toughness with the technique, and we bring it together, and I think that's the key to our success. In chasing competition.
Ashibo, I got one more question for the coach before we go back to you. You mentioned you were an Ohio wrestler, and you also wrestled in the armed forces. And when you started coaching the wrestling team at Seaforth, you and I had a discussion. You said, "Hey, we're going to be champions within a couple of years." And I said, "Yeah, I think it'll take you 3." And you I think you might have said 4 years, and you kind of came in at year 3. So how's what your experience back in school and back in the armed forces as a wrestler affected how you coach at Seaforth, and how well the Seaforth wrestling team has done?
Well, be honest, I'd love to take credit for all of it, but our success is on the back of Coach Rogers. I mean, with the coaching staff that Coach Amy put together and Coach Worley has now, with Pete being, he wrestled at Ohio State and then coaching at Purdue and then running his own D3 program out in Wisconsin. Pete gets it. We're like-minded, where Pete and I were like, North Carolina was missing something, and it was like the hand fighting, the more aggressiveness, and that's what Pete's brought in the room. That's what I bring into the room. That's what Marty's bringing into the room. Being out of Pennsylvania, Scott Tracy wrestled for the Air Force. Coach Dodd up in Virginia. So the coaching staff's aligned. When we get a coaching staff that's aligned with kids with like-minded goals, a lot of our experiences are playing out in the way these kids can wrestle. I mean, because I've trained Lane until Pete got a hold of him in 7th grade, and Lane couldn't turn anybody, he couldn't get off the bottom, but he could take somebody down. Where Coach Rogers come in, now our boys can turn people, they get off the bottom, and they can take people down. So Coach Rogers and them guys, they come together and they help me build a program that it's a state caliber program.
Last question for me, before handing back off to Ashibo. Playing tougher competition. Ashibo and I talk about this, I think, just about every week on the roundup, is that the players and the coaches and the teams that seem to do the best are the ones that go ahead and play up a division or two higher in competition. I guess that's your philosophy as well. And why do you do that?
We have to, we have to look at our program separately, because, when we came in 4 years ago, I mean, we didn't know with the caliber of kids we were going to get. We didn't know if we was going to fill the team, so the first year was kind of, fill it out. And then, we had a great off season, and, all these kids bought in, the parents bought in, and a lot of off-season tournaments. We got in the freestyle Greco. And then that sophomore year is when Pete and I were talking, and that's where the schedule changed. We were like, hey, we got to go after, the Union Pines, the bigger tournaments, the Jim King. And then last year was our big year, because that's when we started hitting the dual teams tournaments, and finding the 4As and the 3As. And, then it evolved into this year, where if you look at it, we went to Cedar Ridge, and then went to Baddest Cat. We try not to wrestle anything less than a 4A, 3A tournament to expose our boys to different styles. And then what it comes down to, we won't see these kids again. By the time we get to the dual state tournament, it's all 2A teams, and then then we get to regionals, it's all 2A teams. And every now and again there'll be sprinkles of kids that we'll see, but it kind of helps us put a game plan together for the program, wrestling better competition, wrestling better kids, then we can go back to the drawing board and say, hey, we didn't wrestle well here. Why didn't we wrestle well? Or, hey, I seen this, you seen this. So I go back in the room and fix the mistakes that we made.
Hold on here for a second. Yeah, well, Ashibo just texted me. He's having some connection problems. Hey, I want to ask again. I said I was going to have the last question, but Coach, did you tell your fans to check you out on Facebook? Because Jennifer Davis said Coach Armstrong is the best in the comments on Facebook. So
I've seen Jennifer's post. I've seen it up there. No, we didn't say anything to anybody, because I honestly thought I was going to be in school today, and this conversation would have been cut shorter because I had to pick up my little ones. Shout out to Virginia Cross, where I work at, Miss Beck. I mean, and even my coworkers, I mean, they're very supportive of us wrestling the program, because, they allow me the time to get to school for the kids. So, if it wasn't for her and Miss Holmes and, Miss Gaines and Miss Cole, there's a lot of coverage that they're covering for me whenever we're taking off for tournaments and getting to practice. So, and I appreciate that with Chatham County.
Well, we're getting a bunch of female viewers today, because Tiffany Tyson, Cassandra Gregory are on there as well. So, and I want to thank all the folks. Ashibo and I have been talking about this. We're averaging over 1,000 viewers on Facebook, about 200 on X, and about 24 on YouTube. So we appreciate folks like Coach Armstrong coming out and joining us, because this is just another venue to educate folks in the county about what's going on in high school sports. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Ashibo and Coach. We got about another 5 minutes or less with you, if you don't mind. And Ashibo, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, just to wrap it up, I want to ask you about this weekend. Of course, you guys kind of getting started with the postseason, with the conference individual tournament. So in that tournament, also too is the way last year when you guys going into the dual playoffs, what's your finish kind of going into the postseason?
You broke up a little bit. How are we looking for moving into the postseason?
Yeah, you're breaking up. Coach, what he's basically looking to do, find out from you is what do you see going into Saturday's matches, and then also into the tournament and the state competition and everything like that. Yeah.
The goal that we put out on the boys, we want to take all 14 weight classes this year. We have the team to do it. We wrestle the competition. That's the goal, but the end state is for them to have fun, compete well, and then, represent Seaforth High School to the best. Now going into the postseason, with us hopefully closing out the conference championship tomorrow, we should be the number one seed from the East going into it. And then, in wrestling, if the boys are wrestling the way that they're wrestling now, we should see a repeat. We will see a repeat of us going to the neutral site and wrestle for the regional championship, and then, land back in Greensboro, in that following week. So, the team's in a good position. We just got to make sure, the boys don't get sick. They stay healthy. They stay in their groups. And, we got less than a month left, and, then move off to individual state titles tournament, and hopefully we can put 7 or 8 in the finals, and close it out for a great season for these seniors.
Yeah, and I don't know if that part of the question I asked got heard, because I think I might have broken up. But also asked, how much is the way last year's dual team tournament, the way that finished, how much is that motivation for the team this year? Is that kind of like in the back of you guys' mind as you guys go into the dual team tournament?
Yeah, I mean, we know, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, and when we came in this season, and the boys set their goals. They set their goals to win the dual state title and the individuals team title, and we don't bring it up too much. We look at it's one match at a time, and they have to go out and they got to find a way to win. If you find a way to win, then we're going to win. You stay off your back, we're going to win. If you shoot, you stay offensive, we're going to win. It's some of the a lot of the data we look at it. Whoever scores first wins, and that's what our mindset is. And we'll go tomorrow, wrestle Bart Yancey and Cummings, and we'll go to Jordan Matthews down there with Jimmy Long, and execute a good conference tournament, and then get back to work for the that following Saturday to hopefully we're wrestling at Seaforth.
Got you.
All right, Ashibo, anything else?
Nope, I think that's everything. That's all the questions I wanted to ask you. Coach, thank you once again for joining us this afternoon. Once again, congratulations to Ethan for Athlete of the Week and on a great season, and to all you guys on another great season, and looking forward to seeing what you guys can do in a couple of weeks in the state playoffs.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll let you go, Coach, and we've got actually up to 95 folks watching this right now, but most of the folks will watch us afterwards on a recording, both here on Facebook and on X. So, hey, thank you for joining us, and good luck tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Yep. Bye. All right, Mr. Ashibo, what are we going to talk about? We got to talk about basketball and the mess up with all this weather, what it's done. We got stuff rescheduled, but there's some big games coming up. And we're also going to talk about the power rankings, which I will tell you ahead of time. I know what they are, folks, and I am not going to disagree with Ashibo's power rankings, because having seen most of the teams, having played and playing some of the games that they've had, I'm definitely going to agree with what Ashibo comes out with his power ranking. So, Ashibo, why don't you go ahead and give us a Chatham County High School basketball roundup? All right, you're freezing up right now. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, if I'm lagging, I might be lagging. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, basketball roundup from last week, because like Gene said, we didn't have many games this week with weather cancellations and postponements. So the biggest game, though, was Chatham Central winning a slow, kind of ugly game over Southeast Alamance, 32-31 on Friday. Both teams recorded their lowest scoring outputs of the season in that one. Chatham Central just shot, I think, 32% from the floor, 1 for 15 from 3. But of course, Reed Albright still got over 10 points. He got 18. He was 8 from 10 from the free throw line, and so that split with Southeast Alamance brings Chatham Central a little closer to that second place spot in the conference standings. And we had Chatham Charter down in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference. They lost to a really good Southern Wake Academy team, 65-37 last week. But they bounced back with a 73-25 win over River Mill on Friday. And Woods Charter also is in that Central Tar Heel 1A conference, tied for first, actually, after last week with Southern Wake Academy. They won their second and third games in a row with a 59-35 win over Triangle Math and Science. And then they beat Clever Garden on Friday, 46-33. And they got a good game out of Bhuvanesh Sentil, the senior down low. He had a 20-point, 15-rebound double-double against Triangle Math and Science. So pretty good game from him and leading the Wolves in that win. And then Of course, we had our in-county game between Seaforth and Jordan Matthews last week, and Seaforth got the best of the Jets, 63-48. So that snapped Seaforth's snapped their 2-game losing streak prior to that game, and that's Jordan Matthews' 4th straight loss in the span of 5 games at the time they played. So, but Jordan Matthews also bounced back with a 55-47 win over Cummings on Friday. So that's just pretty much a short recap of what we had last week. And now, boys, power rankings coming into this week. Still not too many changes because, like we said, we've seen all the teams this year. And at this point in the season, teams are who they are and are just going to battle it out now with the second round of conference play coming up. So we have Jordan Matthews at 6, Chatham Charter at 5, Woods Charter at 4, Seaforth at 3, Chatham Central at 2, and Northwood at the 1 spot for the boys' power rankings from the week of January 13th.
And as I said, I totally agree with this because we saw Chatham Central play against Northwood, and they played at Northwood. So I think the next big game folks may want to go see in person is when Northwood goes to play at Chatham Central, because my feeling was at the end of the game, Chatham Central felt that they could have won that game against Northwood. So we'll be.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm about to say I totally forgot about that one because we have a whole story on that game. But yeah, it came down to the last few minutes of the game, last moments. Chatham Central, I think, had a lead even in the third quarter. Just hung around, and they went back and forth down the stretch. Cam Fowler had a career high 30 points in that one. So yeah, like you said, I think Chatham Central probably felt really good about themselves coming out of that one. They probably felt like a little bit of frustration because that's kind of the second big game this season. They kind of let get away at the end. I don't know if you guys remember the first time they played Southeast Alamance. They had the lead in the first half. I think they were up by as much as 17 and let the Stallions come back and win that one at their place. So, yeah, Chatham Central definitely not as far back from Northwood, as you might think from after that game last week. So, Reed Albright, Brendan Oldham, Aiden Johnson, Luke Gaines, they're a solid core of seniors that can shoot the ball from outside. All 4 of them can. Even Aiden Johnson can step out and shoot the 3. So they're a very dangerous team. And like we saw against Southeast Alamance, they have they can also slow you down if they need to try to win a game like that. So I expect them to kind of come out that same way against Northwood the second time, slow it down a little bit. They did slow it down against Northwood, but talking to Coach Brown, he said upping the pace in that second half really got them going, and especially in the last few minutes as they pulled away to win that game. So, yeah, big basketball games last week on the boys' side. And then, yeah, going into the girls' side of things, last week, Seaforth extended their dominant win streak to 13, with a 63-17 blowout win over Jordan Matthews. Just great defensive game from them in that one. I think Peyton Collins had team high 5 steals to go along with her 11 points. And then Gabby White, she led the team with scoring with 14 points and 4 assists. Northwood, of course, big win over Chatham Central in that one. Nia Henry led them with 12 points in that one. And then she got points again in the victory over Northmore on Friday when they beat them 68-22. And then also in that game, I think Northwood had a really good defensive game. 27 steals. Nia Henry grabbed 9 of them. So just 2 big wins for the Chargers there. Chatham Charter, they went on to win 3 and 4 in a row with a win over Sutter Lake Academy, 55-8. And then they beat River Mill 46-5 on Friday. So 2 huge blowout wins for the Knights there. And then Woods Charter, they lost 2 straight games during the week. They lost to Triangle Math and Science 32-18 and Clever Garden School 50-23 on Friday last week. And of course, Chatham Central, after they lost to Northwood, which, they actually did play pretty tight with Northwood in that first half. Came back, they were down after a pretty rough start in the first quarter, but still clawed their way to a 10-point deficit just at halftime, but just didn't have enough to outlast Northwood there in that second half, especially with the size advantage. But they went against Southeast Alamance again. You guys remember the first time it went really rough for them. The second time they lost that one 49-19. So in the girls' power rankings, I got Jordan Matthews at 6, Woods Charter at 5, Chatham Charter at 4, Chatham Central still at 3, Northwood at 2, and Seaforth at 1. So not too many changes. Like I said, once again, now Chatham Charter's girls team is picking up some fire during the season. So we could see some changes in the middle of the power rankings there between them and Chatham Central. But those are your girls' power rankings. And Gene, do you have anything about the girls' power rankings?
No, I totally agree with you. 1 and 2 are solid. If there's any changes, I agree with you. It's going to be in the middle, and we saw that on the boys' side as well. 1 and 2, I see them as being pretty solid. Now, I know Coach Barrett Seaforth probably going to try to kick them up a little bit, but they lost to Chatham Central when they played over there. So, 1 and 2 is pretty solid, and then we'll be starting to talk about postseason play. But the big thing too, Ashibo is definitely going to touch on right now is, and we got to talk about what you got in the paper that came out today. But before we get to that, North Carolina High School Athletic Association came out with their second draft of conferences starting for next year. So Ashibo, why don't you fill folks in as to what's going on there?
Yeah, so we got some changes in the second draft of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's conference alignment. And if you guys remember that first draft for our 1A schools, we had Chatham Central and Chatham Charter together in a 1A conference with Ascend Leadership, Central Carolina Academy, News Charter, and Southern Wake. And then Woods Charter was by themselves in another conference with Clever Garden, Discovery Charter, Excelsior Classical, Falls Lake Academy, and the River Mill Academy. So with the second draft, just looking at 1A, once again, Woods Charter still by themselves. With Ascend, but this time they're with Ascend Leadership, Central Carolina Academy, Clever Garden, Discovery Charter, Excelsior Classical, Falls Lake Academy, News Charter, River Mill, and Southern Wake. So they're in a pretty big conference in the second draft. Chatham Central and Chatham Charter are still together, and this time a 1A, 2A conference alongside College Prep and Leadership, North Stokes, South Davidson, Winston-Salem Prep, Bishop McGinnis, who was 2A, and South Stokes, who was also 2A. So those are just the 1A changes between the first and second drafts. And then going to our 3A, 4A teams. If you guys remember, in the first draft, we had Northwood and JM together. In the 3A, 4A, Eastern Randolph, Northmore, Carborough, Southwestern Randolph, and for Northwood and JM, especially if you look at Northmore, Eastern Randolph, Carborough, not too far from familiarity what teams they've competed against in the conference. But in that second draft, it's pretty much actually their conference did not change. Yep, in that second draft, they are in the same conference, same alignment with the same team. So looking at our 5A conference with Seaforth, also pretty much the same. The first draft they were with Cedar Ridge, Durham School of the Arts, Orange, South Granville, and Webb. In the second draft, same team, Cedar Ridge, Durham School of the Arts, Orange, South Granville, and Webb. So pretty much for Chatham, most of the changes were for our 1A schools. As far as alignment, like we said, Woods Charter is still by themselves. Chatham Central and Chatham Charter are also together, but Chatham Central and Chatham Charter are in a 1A, 2A conference this time. So yep, those are our changes. Gene, what do you think about the changes just for our 1A schools?
I don't know. I would have liked to see all three schools together in the same conference, but is there going to be another draft after this, or was this the last one?
I'm not all the way sure. I think this might have been the last one. I know this isn't the final. I don't think, because they are giving coaches and ADs another chance to submit requests or concerns. I think Tuesday, January 28th is the last day for that. So they are going to go in and consider those concerns and probably do another draft or before they make these finals. So no, nothing here is set in stone. I should say.
Now, did that come out? Did you get that in this week's paper, or is that coming out in next week's paper? The conference realignments.
It'll be coming up. Yeah, the conferences were dropped after this week's deadline, so we should have some stuff coming out with next week's paper explaining it more and having it laid out for
All
you
right.
guys. Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk about what you got in this week's paper. We know you got the Athlete of the Week, and we talked to Coach Armstrong about that because he was from the Seaforth Wrestling team. But what else have you got in this week's paper that comes out today or has come out today?
Yeah, so of course we got our 2-game stories from Northwood and Chatham Central last week on Thursday. We got a girl's story and a boy's story, but we also have some pretty big news. We have Seaforth first football coach Terrence Gary. He's stepping down, and now Seaforth is looking for a new head football coach. So got a chance to talk with Terrence a little bit after he made it. After the news was made public on Friday, he just wanted to take care of his health. And prioritize himself. He's spent a lot of time trying to get this program kicked off. Just wasn't taking care of himself, and the duties with him and his family. So he just wanted to take that time to get back mentally, physically healthy, and also spend some time where other things matter for right now. So yeah, that's the news on Terrence Gary, and we wish him all the best in his future endeavors. I think he is looking to coach again, but anything, he's just going to stay at Seaforth like we said, wishing him the best and whatever's going to come next for Coach Gary. And then Gabby White was nominated as she's a nominee for the 2020 All-American game out of Seaforth. I think she's one of, I want to say 9 from North Carolina. And of course, girls are nominated by, coaches and some of the McDonald's All-American committee that do the selection. So yeah, congrats to Gabby on that honor. And hopefully we'll see her on the final roster. I think it's the top 24 from boys and girls. Well, top 24 girls get recognized and get to play in the McDonald's All-American game, and that'll be in New York. So, yeah, congrats to Gabby White on that. You guys remember Drake McDonald's All-American represented well in that game. So, like we said, hopefully Gabby makes a final roster. And then, of course, have our roundup with all of our sports, boys basketball, girls basketball, and we have some wrestling stuff. Jordan Matthews, they hosted their first Jets Invitational on Saturday, and they had 16 other teams in attendance. Jordan Matthews had 3 wrestlers placed in that one. Nehemiah Page finished first in the 113-pound bracket. Caleb Moffitt finished second in the 285-pound bracket, and Jakari Blue finished third for 190 pounds. Chatham Central Stephen Silhan III finished first in the 190-pound bracket, and Chatham Central also had Carson Williams earning first place for the 150-pound bracket as well. So pretty good showings from Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central in that big wrestling tournament down at Jordan Matthews. So, yeah. And, Gene, did you also want to go into more of the winter sports stuff?
Yeah, why don't we finish up with that, and then we'll finish up with where you're going to be. I think you got plans for tomorrow and Saturday. I think I've got plans for tomorrow. I'm not sure about Saturday yet. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then just to continue on wrestling as well, like you said, we just talked to Coach Armstrong at Seaforth, and they had a really good day at the Dash Classic. They had 8 wrestlers placed. We had Jordan Miller getting first for 113, Gabe Rogers first for 120, Lane Armstrong first for 132, Harrison Compton first for 190. Of course, our athlete of the week, Ethan Kubal, first for 215. And then we had Judge Lloyd second for 175, Caden Brewer second for 150, and Luke Ayers third for 106. That's the one that Coach Armstrong said, underrated for Seaforth this year in that 106 division. So great showing for them as well. Northwood, they had the Eagles duel hosted by Western Hornet on Saturday, and they went 3-3 at that one. They beat Triton twice and Westover, but they lost to Grays Creek and Western Hornet. And Grays Creek, Western Hornet, and, of course, defending 1A dual team state champions, URE Charter. So that's just our wrestling wrap up from last week. A lot of wrestling action. And then other winter sports that went on last week, we had swimming featuring Woods Charters, boys and girls. They were in a multi-dual meet with East Chapel Hill and Chapel Hill. on January 15th. And then that one, of course, freshman Daisy Collins, she had a standout day for Woods Charter. She finished first in the girls 100-yard butterfly with a time of 58.35 seconds. And then she also finished first in the girls 500-yard freestyle with a time of 5 minutes and 1.33 seconds. So great showing from Daisy Collins. We I had a story on Daisy earlier this season because she competed on a high level overseas, I think with Team USA as well. So yeah, that is our roundup this week.
All right. Where are you going to be next couple of days?
Yeah, so tomorrow I will be at Jordan Matthews for their home basketball games against Northwood, because tomorrow Jordan Matthews will be having their Hall of Fame night at those basketball games. You guys remember last year, it was a big night for Jordan Matthews because they retired Terrence Newby and Coach Kermit Carter's jerseys, and pretty good story. Lots of great stories about their time at Jordan Matthews came out of that as well. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot of a great memories being shared once again tomorrow with the new class being inducted at Jordan Matthews. And then on Saturday, I'll be back at Jordan Matthews for the Mid Carolina 1A2A individual conference wrestling tournament. So those are I'll be for the next 2 days. And then Monday night, of course, we have a big basketball game at Northwood with Chargers and Southeast Alamance, another battle for first place in the Mid Carolina 1A2A conference. So and also Woods Charter, I think, is still scheduled to play Chatham Charter at Chatham Charter Monday night as well. So a lot of things going on in the next couple of days because of the weather postponing some things. But yeah, that's where I'll be for the next few days.
Yeah, that Northwood Southeast Alamance game was supposed to be Tuesday night, I think, and then it got canceled. And actually, it turned out to be a good thing because originally they said there wasn't going to be any snow or bad weather, but then 5 o'clock it started, and I know folks going down some of those back roads would have had some difficulties getting about. I will probably be at the Northwood game tomorrow, and then on Monday when Southeast Alamance competes against Northwood at Northwood, I'll be there on Monday. Don't yet know about Saturday. Can't make a commitment on that. So, folks, that's this week's Chatham NC Sports Roundup. Sheba got to talk with Coach Armstrong from Seaforth. We got to learn a little bit about what's going on over there. They're looking to have another good season this year, and we will see you next week. We are also working on another special guest for next week as well. I think now that the coaches are realizing that, hey, you know what? It's not that bad to go on a live stream and talk to a Shibo. They're like, okay, we can go ahead and do that. So we may have another special guest for next Thursday. Can't tell you who that might be yet. So, folks, thanks for watching. Let your friends and family members know. And if you all want to say that Coach Armstrong's woo, feel free to do that. All right, we're out here. Shibo, anything else to close out? Nope, I guess not. He's having transmission problems today. All right, here we go. We're going to end this up.